Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's masterclass. All right. Okay. So let us know specifically, Arinze, what it is. All right. Moshe had major financial losses from the stocks, okay, to Ponzi schemes. Yeah, not ready to lose a penny any longer. I want to grow what I have now through time-tested investment. Excellent. Very good. We'll talk about that today. So your expectation is in order. In fact, we would talk a little bit more about that. Okay, and for those just joining us, please go ahead and type in the chat. Hello, D. Yeah, glad to have you here, D. Glad to have you here as well. All right, so let's keep it going. What are your expectations? And those who are just joining, what were your money lessons and insights and experiences in the past 1 month? And it's okay if you want to share, if you want to talk instead of type it, just raise your hands and then we will recognize you. Okay, very good. Yeah, it does count. Yeah, got a new job this week. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay. Is that in the same industry, Kayode? Or a different industry? Did you switch in industry or you just got a new job in the same industry? And what industry is that you work in? Okay. Hello, Nina. Wonderful. Congratulations, Nina, on your new job with the microfinance bank. Okay, Kayode, congratulations too. Tech sector, higher paying job. Okay. Okay. Co-host, there are a couple of people in the waiting room. Please admit them. All right. Okay. So you're all welcome. So let's go on to so once again, this is the agenda for today. I was reviewing with a friend today why I do the things I do. When I left Shell, I left with such a passion, very huge passion, in my heart to help poor people because in the course of my career, I got a chance to travel to different parts of the world, to different continents, and I saw how orderly things were in whether it was in Netherlands or Belgium or Italy or United States or Dubai, all the places that I had to go in the course of my work and also on vacation. I saw how things worked very smoothly without problems there. Utilities worked. Everywhere was neat and clean. The system worked. Telecommunications worked. The markets worked. But then as soon as I flew into the Nigerian airspace, it was very, very different. Things were really very different. And then I go to other African countries and I see that it's essentially the same problem. And then one of the things that perhaps, both shocked me and annoyed me the most was that in almost every country in Africa that I've been, it is the foreigners who live in the best parts of the country, the best parts of the country. It is foreigners, who had access to the high quality life in the country. So I go to Ghana, it's the same thing. So in Ghana, the best places like airport residential or like cantonment and all those places, it's mostly foreigners, who can afford the rent there. When I was looking for an apartment in Ghana, I was getting quotes like $3,000, $5,000 a month in some places in airport residential. And very few Ghanaians earn that kind of money in a year. Okay. So here we are in Africa. We are the owners of the resources. It's our land. We were born here, we were made here. But then we are not the ones enjoying the full benefits of the resources that we have. Then what has happened recently in Niger exposed the problem even more. France makes at least $500 billion from Africa every single year. Like literally, without African countries, France will collapse. And we saw how France was cutting away the wealth of Niger. And, so they're taking the uranium from Niger and powering up France. They have electricity, 100% of the population. And then in Niger, I think, if I remember correctly, it's only like the 15% of the population that have access to electricity. But these things are in their soil. So things weren't balanced. And I thought that the best way I could contribute was to start this knowledge and mindset business to help people, because people cannot change the external circumstances. Your external circumstances cannot change until you change from within. And where you and I are today, in everything, in our finances, or in the level of execution that we are participating in God's plan and purpose for our lives. All those things are a reflection of who we are inside, what we know. So when the prophet says that my people perish for lack of knowledge, it essentially meant that ignorance was what was keeping Africans, and it's still what's keeping Africans where we are. And this kind of ignorance that's keeping us where we are is not the type of ignorance you remove through going to school, because our educational system, forgive me, is useless. It is totally unrelated to reality. Like, people come out, they pour all those things they pour into your brain in the university, but then you come out and you can't function. And so that's why I started what I started. And even things like this, I do it freely and I spend my time. I actually enjoy doing it because it fits very much with my purpose and the sort of dream I see. Having Africans, many Africans, getting to know who they are, getting to really know yourself, knowing that you are not inferior, to the Oyibo people. You're not inferior in any way. But then if we are able to build the right kind of mindset through what we are doing, okay, like this one, what we're doing, what we do every Saturday, I'm basically looking to inspire your mindset that it doesn't matter what is happening around us in the world today. And of course, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things will continue to happen. But if you take some time in developing your inner world, it doesn't matter what is happening outside, you will do very well. Okay, so that's by the way of introduction. Do we have any more new people joining us? Yeah, if you're just joining us, you can also type in the chat, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and especially if you're joining us here for the first time. Okay, so also within the week, I encountered a couple of people who have lost their businesses as a result of what is going on in the country today. So there were people, single mothers. There was also another gentleman who had taking facilities from the bank to make his business work, but it is not working. Okay. So like our people will say that the business is not businessing. And then there's another young woman whose business also failed because the economic environment right now is actually very, very challenging. And I would like us to, if there's anybody, I'm going to share my experience of recovering from a business failure. But is anybody in the room willing to share your own experience of how you started a business and then that business failed? It wasn't delivering anymore on its promise, and then somehow you have a comeback. I would like us to share. Let's have somebody in the room, even if it is 2 or 3 people, share your experience so we can learn.
My name is Engineer Ali. So I had a business experience. I started working in 2018 in Ogun State. So I'm actually from here. So anytime when I was coming from Bauchi to Ogun State, I used to alight at Kano to buy some set of perfumes. I started the business with just 11,000 naira. So after 3 months, the profit I accumulated on that business was about 167,000 naira.
Mhm.
But the business is not actually there, but it was my extra expenditure that consumed the profit as well as the profit. You understand? So
Mhm.
I was actually building a house to settle down. So that building house and settling down and getting married was one that actually of everything.
Mhm.
So, and when I married, and I actually have another means of livelihood of which I told you I was working.
Right.
So I didn't have to go back to the business.
Oh,
So that's just a brief
okay.
story.
Okay. Very good. And so you have you're on paid employment right now.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So the paid employment overtook that side hustle. Thank you very much. That's a very good one. Okay. Ifani says, an employee in a pharmaceutical company for almost 7 years, but don't have anything to show or any project due to poor payment that didn't meet common financial needs. All right, we're going to talk about that, Ifani, in the next couple of slides. I will share with you what you can do. My own story. I think when I look back at why my business failed, I started a product business. Couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to diversify from my knowledge business to a physical business. So I decided to do a fruit juice bar. Okay, I decided to set up a fruit juice bar, and I decided to set that fruit juice bar in Enugu and not in Lagos. At that time, I did not have the kind of cash flow that would have allowed me to set up in Lagos, because the market is obviously in Lagos and a couple of places in Lagos. And people had the free cash to be able to pay for that in Lagos. But then the big challenge then was, getting a good place, being able to rent a place, say in Victoria Island or in the Central Business District in Marina, the high traffic areas. So I didn't have that at the time. And then I didn't have a good experience, borrowing from the bank initially. So I didn't want to go that route. So I thought, okay, let's come do it in Enugu. Now, That business failed eventually. We started it, we bought the machines, got a place in Enugu, touched it up, really touched up very well. And then I employed a couple of young people to manage the place. But within months, in less than 6 months, that business actually failed, collapsed. We were spending more than we were getting. So when I look back and to analyze why the business failed, there were some fundamental flaws which I didn't account for in the business model. And of course, you know, the business model has three things, you know, how you create, how you deliver, and how you capture value. So in terms of creating the value, we were very good because we had some excellent recipes, smoothie recipes, some health recipes, and then some that we created ourselves. So that was really very good, you know, creating the value. But we didn't do very well in terms of delivering and capturing the value. And the reason was, I think that I overestimated the market. I overestimated the buying power of people, you know, in that place. So I later discovered that apart from gym goers, because our major demographic were the gym goers, people who went to gym, and so they came to buy some of these smoothies and things like that before they went to the gym and all that. But there weren't many. They really weren't that many, you know, to sustain the business. And we also discovered that that was more like a luxury item, a luxury commodity, because as at that time, we would sell a bottle of tiger nut milk or something like that with some other formulations for like 1,500 naira, 2,000 naira. That was a lot of money for people living in Enugu. It couldn't have been for people living in Lagos. So every business basically fails, if not for any other reason, but because customers are not buying, you know, they run out of customers. And so we didn't have the customers to sustain that business. Then secondly, within 2 weeks after we started, the state government sent their tax people, you know, to begin to harass us. And it's like, this is 2 weeks. We just literally like said 2 weeks. Then they came at another time. They said, okay, we didn't have their own approved dustbin, even though we had brand new dustbins that we bought. They said, no, we didn't have their own. And then they literally kidnapped my manager, the young woman. And I had to abort what I was doing somewhere to go there and ransom her. They kidnapped her, literally. He was so annoying. Put her inside one of their vans, you know, like thugs. They created a scene. So at some point, I wasn't sure that I was ready for that kind of drama. The business was, you know, we were not getting customers, and we didn't have the customer segment to support that kind of, you know, thing. And so that business went. So what did I do after that? Well, I closed it down very quickly and took losses. It was a lot of loss because we spent millions in touching up that facility that we rented, screeded the walls, painted it, changed the lightings, bought furniture and all kinds of things. And we couldn't recoup that. But I thought it was important to fail and to stop it very quickly and then move on. So what I did was shut it down. And then I came back to what I do, because it's always important for each of us to know what our strengths are. And even when we want to pivot into something else, you know, to pivot along the line of opportunity. And opportunity meaning our skills, our passion, what we love to create, what we love to do. So I went back to what I was really very good at, which is my coaching and consulting. So I doubled down on it, and it took off really wonderfully well. So around that time, I started my engagement with Lagos Business School, started getting lots of gigs, from Lagos Business School. And then while that was going on, I started working at Stanford as a business advisor to Stanford Seed, that is Stanford Graduate School of Business in California. And then through that, met and helped so many businesses around Africa. And I still do, did that for 6 years. I still adjunct at Lagos Business School. And then there's also China Europe International Business School. So I found me going back to the things that like are my core competencies. So I didn't have enough juice within me to continue with the juice problem, because it appeared like it was going to need my constant presence to succeed. But I didn't have that kind of bandwidth. So if I'm going to advise anyone who is trying to recover from failed business, because the challenge for us as entrepreneurs when our businesses fail, it's not so much that we can't run the business or that we can't do something else. It's the cash flow situation that you find yourself as a business owner when your business fails. Because, the children need to eat, school fees still need to be paid, house rent need to be paid if you don't have your own house already. And so those things can be very, very emotionally traumatic on business owners. That's the time to be to not isolate yourself, to find people, masterminds, people of like mind that you can actually inspire each other. That's a time also to seek partnerships, that you can use to build yourself up again. That's a time to look at your value chain, the value chain of your industry. All right. And then look at parts of the value chain that you can go to play to rebuild yourself. So let me give you a practical example or practical wisdom in making that happen. So my mentor told me many years ago, he said, if you want to start a business and you have the money, he said you should buy and sell. If you want to start, but you don't have the money, then he says you should sell and buy. How this works out, because that's also what helped me a lot, how this works out. Let's take the real estate sector, for instance. If you want to start playing in the real estate, and I think I have a couple of real estate people here, if you want to start playing in the real estate. So typically people say that real estate involves, that it's capital intensive. It really depends. So what you can do is, you don't have the money to start developing your own properties and then renting. So what do? You sell and buy. In other words, you can sell existing real estate property. You connect the owner of that property with a buyer. Okay, so if the owner says, I'm selling this property for 85 million, this is where you now engage your selling skills. So if you look, you go to the seller, so you agree. The owner says, all right, so if you sell the 85 million, I'm going to give you 5% of that. Okay, and 5% of 85 million is like about 4.2 billion or something like that, 4.3 million. And I can say to the seller, I think I'm able to sell it. Okay, I'm able to sell it. And then you go to the buyer, you sell the 85 million, or maybe you're good enough in selling, you sell it for 90 million. So you have the 5 million on top of it, plus this 4. And then with that kind of money, 9 million, you can now start something. So when you fail in a business and you don't have capital to restart, so you think about the strategy of selling, sell a service, be paid upfront, sell services. All right. So it was easy for me in consulting. So I didn't need a loan from the bank because I would sell my consulting service. The first one I sold was to multi-choice. So I didn't have money to set up, big office and all that, but I was able to sell to multi-choice. And then from multi-choice to MTN, from MTN to Stanbic, and then Stanbic Bank, IBTC, I beg your pardon. Okay, it was IBTC at the time. And then from there to Access Bank, and then things, kind of just started blowing up from there. So to recover from failed business, first thing I will encourage you to do is to consider your mental health. Protect your mental health by all means, because you're going to need this mind to restart. So protect it. Still find yourself around, positive and inspiring people. Find yourself around communities like this where you can hear things that literally let you know that the world has not come to an end. Yeah, you are not the first person to fail in business. Literally, most people who are very successful in business today failed several times in business before they finally found, this core competence that they have stayed in for a long time. Then sell services and demand upfront payment. Use that upfront payment to do the thing. The other thing is, in the interim, you might not be able to do your core business, but nothing stops you doing something else. Nothing stops you doing something else. Okay. So there are people who, there have been families that found themselves in challenging situation. Actually, no, a family, the woman is a professional. The woman is a medical professional. The husband was out of work, and there were just all kinds of combination of circumstances. And then the woman had to start making chin chin. She made chin chin and sold. And those things actually solve problems. So don't say, I am a PhD holder, I'm a graduate. When you find yourself in that situation, look for low-hanging fruits, things that you can actually do around you to be able to generate cash for survival, to just sustain yourself while you find other things to do. So I hope that these thoughts have been very helpful. But when we go into the coaching session, the question and answer session, if you have some further questions or specific things that we haven't addressed around recovering from failed business, then you can ask that. Okay, so I'll pause now to see if there is any question or any contribution, something else anybody wants to. So I'll pause a little bit and also to look at the chat before we continue to the next session. Okay. All right. Awesome. Yes. Thank you, D. Yeah. Okay. Protect your mental health. Excellent. True. All right. Awesome. Okay. So Ngozi raised her hand. So please unmute and contribute. Go ahead, Ngozi.
Well, I didn't want to say anything initially because I have had many failed businesses, not one. So different reasons. One, which is very, very, very devastating, is the attitude of both when you have a partner or employees who are dishonest. It appears that's a bigger problem in our environment. Like you said, you cannot be there, but the situations we've had, there's this one that really shook us. It's a hair product factory that we were setting up, the very people who were the technocrats who brought the idea and we bought into it and invested, we are the ones who looted it. Right from buying of raw materials to everything. So it's very, very disheartening. The other challenge is government policy. We had a factory for rubber. We did everything, brought in Chinese and all that. It was very heavy. I won't mention the amounts. It was a very heavy thing. In fact, and we took NIDB. Is it NIDB? Well, we took a loan, an international loan in foreign currency, brought in Chinese, set up the place. Then government changed policy from locally manufactured processed rubber and lifted the ban, and everybody brought in rubber from Indonesia and Malaysia and everywhere. And that was cheaper than the locally produced. So the factory died, but we were now owing money. And then the inflation. The other one was the microfinance. The banks were not supposed to own microfinance when we got into that business. Government lifted it and allowed banks to own microfinance. That was devastating. But the thing which is most discouraging is that people are watching you. You've done this, you've done that, you don't know. It's like the person looks stupid. But all these ideas were well crafted and all that, but other factors now getting. There's the one of the bookshop, and you at least saw us in the microfinance and bookshop.
Right.
The bookshop one was that I did not, I worked with my passion, which is reading books and giving out books, Christian books. And I invested heavily on it. So between, I don't know whether anybody knows, Bibles are the most stolen items. One of the most stolen.
Strange.
Yeah. And so you might find that so I imported Bibles. I imported Christian books. It was a horrible experience. So, when you look at that, at some point, we have to go back to this humility. I underlined it. You must be humble. You must come to the place of humility to recover. If you look at yourself, who I am and all that, you won't recover. So that humility will help you to take on any other thing. So
right.
My family took on jobs that they would never have dreamed of doing. And different sectors just to recover. Right. And like you pointed out, the bills don't wait. The regular bills don't wait. You have to eat, you have to do things. And the challenge, when you say guard your mental state, the challenge is if you don't, you go into despair and depression, and it doesn't help anybody. So, and some of the things that people will normally do is, we can't afford this anymore, move away, do this. But you're moving like Obo moved on Enugu and found out that the whole wonderful idea that was supposed to be cheaper rent and all that had other complications over there. It was a new environment and a different environment. So by God's mercies, we did not do those. We stayed in our environment and kept on working on things. We didn't succeed in business, but we were able to recover
Mm.
ourselves and
Wow.
have a focus.
Wow.
Another thing is unity.
Mm.
If you're, for those of you who are married, if
Mm.
you're a woman or a man, support your partner.
Mm.
That's not when to beat him up or her to say,
Mm.
but I told you, or you've never done well. Because truth be told, that woman that started making chin-chin, she
Mm.
looked at it as a family. Okay, we have to feed the children. What's the point? And even the in-laws would reject all of you.
Right.
So, when somebody doesn't have money anymore, it doesn't have friends. So that unity within the house,
Yeah, very good.
within
Very
the
important.
husband is the most important
Very
factor. When
yeah.
Obo was going through the things, one of the things I said to him is that, Obo, God gave you your own wife, because that woman,
Mm.
she tried.
Yeah.
She's a PhD pharmacy, but you wouldn't know it by her demeanor. So that humility is very, very important. And if you didn't get anything this evening, get that to recover from failed business, unemployment too, because you can go to work if it's America or one of those high-paying offices. It doesn't matter what kind of skill you have. The
Right.
day they give you that pink slip or call you into the office, or God forbid, I'm not saying it will happen, but it is part of living. The day the business is not getting the contract they want or something, they give you that thing. You see how you just like, suddenly levels change. And no matter where you are, you have to do that humble take.
Right.
Which is my husband. I loved my husband because he was very humble. He would look at the situation the next day, he gets up and be doing something, you'll be wondering how. In fact, he went from banking. So when Obo says stay on your core knowledge, he went from banking to airline consulting. But within the airline consulting, he stayed on the finance and became relevant. Even with that. So within 10 years, he had erased the failures that he experienced from banking and all that, and became an executive director where he worked.
Wow.
So it's and his age wasn't on his side either. Not that if he went to banking to look for employment that they would have hired him, because he had already gotten to the highest of that point, and age wasn't on his side. So sorry I took your time, but I hope
This
this
is
is
very
helpful.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And I hope that people, business owners and people, who lost employment are getting a lot from this. This is really, really practical. I mean, this is not the sort of thing that you read in books. And this is the sort of thing that you can only find in a community like this, where people are vulnerable and then open to share. Because if you go to the social media, everything is so glamorous. Everybody is riding a Lambo. Everybody is living in a magnificent mansion. But these are the stories that never get told, of how people, face some challenges and how they dealt with it and then overcame it. And then listening to Aunty Ngozie's story, one thing that comes out very strongly as an encouragement to everyone here is that if you're failed in business, you can also come out of it. You can deal with it. It might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, but you can come out of it. And if people have come out of business failure, you too can do that. Okay, so Atoki Thompson, your hand is up. Okay, so let's take you for a moment and then we'll move on to the next agenda. Unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, so just like what you said earlier in my sister, also had such experience. Myself and my wife, we started the business and it was going on well. So, and all of a sudden, I think in 2021, she was struck with cancer and we battled with it and eventually I lost her. But what funny thing was that, during those processes, I didn't know the business was going down because we were just pulling money out and we were just trying to take care of everything. And there was bank loan. But sometimes everything will be shut down just for us to meet up with our appointments in the hospital, with everything, all those bills. Eventually, when she went, I mean, when she passed on, and I went to take account, I realized a lot has gone. So I had to, in fact, I eventually closed up the business. I sat back and looked at my kids, and I was like, how are we going to move now? So, but there is one thing about me. I studied business management in the university, and I am good at restructuring business for people.
Wow.
So I just told myself that how do I start? How do I pick it up from here? So I began approaching people, and I began telling them about myself. The first job I got, I think it was that they paid me 750,000 for the restructuring. I was like, ah, God. So if I can start this so low, I mean, if I can start like this, gradually I will get over everything. But you know, Nigeria, the more you try to rise, you will just realize that policy will change. That's what when she spoke about government policy. One of the things that is killing businesses in Nigeria is the government policy. Imagine when you are trying to rise, you just realize that the dollar is not consistent again. Okay, after the dollar, they will increase the fuel price. After that one, the price of commodity will go up. And things keep happening, bringing you down and down. So like that, I was able to get the second job, the third job, and I kept moving. But one thing that never stopped growing is the bill. Bill is coming. But the main thing is that don't stop. No matter how the situation is, no matter how you have been to the wall, rise again, keep pushing. Eventually, you will get through. So that's my intake about that.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. And then may God bless the memory of your dear wife. Yeah, she's not lost. I'm sure that sometime in eternity you will meet again in a good place. So thank you for sharing. That's very wonderful, touching story.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to the dream strategy. Something I want to share with you. So a couple of months ago, the spokesman of NDIC revealed that Nigerians lost about 911.45 billion to Ponzi schemes and get-rich-quick schemes in the last 23 years. And then a third of that money, this 900 billion naira, was lost between 2017 and 2022 alone. And then many of you here will remember the MMM, the MBA Forex. I hear there's another one they call something pro, whatever. There are always so many of them, coming up. MMM alone, people lost 18 billion naira to MMM alone. And then to MBA Forex, people lost 171 billion naira. When you put all these monies together, I was just imagining if this 1 trillion naira, and that's a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen, that is a lot of money, 1 trillion naira. And then much of for the dollar is what it is today. If we had put this money into innovation, into entrepreneurship, into venture funding, this money is that Nigerians, and then for most parts, people put in all their retirement savings. Usually when that thing comes, and it bites you, you don't think of, if you have 10 million saved, you don't normally think, okay, let me just put 100,000. You want to put 9 million, if not the whole 10 million. And so people lost their life savings. And I remember in the 1980s, a friend of mine kept urging me to join the Omana Day, because I think, in my own recollection, that was probably the very first money scheme in Nigeria. And I don't know if anybody in this chat was old enough um, to remember that. Just type yes in the chat, please, if you remember Omana, and you were there. So this gentleman would double people's money. You put 10,000 naira, he will give you 20,000 and all that. And so people sold their house, sold land, sold things, borrowed money, and put in Omana. And then as I'm talking to you right now in Nigeria, there are many, 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 many things like this going on. People fail in one, and then as they're recovering from that one, they're putting their hands. And then yours truly, who is talking to you, I also fell victim. I'm also a victim of these people because my own money is in this 911 billion, you know. So because the money I lost to Nospetco and Wells Zone in 2007, if I actually had put that money, say, in stocks or put it in some kind of investment or bought houses, you know, it would have been a very different story today. But of course, we can't recover the past. But before we continue, if your money is also part of this 911 billion, if you've also been scammed by any of these schemes, please type I in the chat. Let me just make sure I'm not the only stupid person here. Type I in the chat. If you've ever lost money to these schemes, just type I. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So different one of them. Just Simeon had to type it 3 times. I. Oh, yeah. So literally every Nigerian um knows somebody who has been scammed and who has lost money to. It's a horrendous problem. And then just look at the chat and see everybody, people who have lost money to all these. Let me give you this, bring people, do this and all that and all that, and then just imagine it. And then you see, like in many people's cases, it is desperation. It is when people look at the economy, because if you look at that period, of Buhari's government, things were biting people. And you would imagine that's even when people would have been more careful, with their money. But that was a time that millions, literally millions of Nigerians, got scammed. 900 and something, almost 1 trillion naira. That is a lot of money to lose to get rich quick schemes. And as we are talking, I hear that there are so many of them flying around that people are doing. Yes. Moshi says, you lost on a spectacle. Yes, I lost on a spectacle and well zone as well. And you remember that well zone, smooth talking Stanley. Nobody even hears where he is again. He just melted into space. Since that time, nobody has heard about. Yeah, it's called Omega Pro. Yeah, somebody was telling me about that one today. And then usually people, I've never understood it, but there's something, maybe a psychological bug that causes people that even though this thing has happened to you once, yet another one comes, and then you find yourself plunging into it. So now there's something better to do. So there's something better to do, what I have devised based on my work, coaching many businesses. I've worked with over 300 businesses in different industries. And so as a business coach, I keep on looking for things and processes that work, that people can actually take to move their lives and their businesses forward. It looks to me like there's an open, somebody is not muted, so I'm hearing a lot of static. Co-host, can you support that? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, that works. Okay, so I'm constantly creating tools that can help people organize their lives and organize their thinking and make it work. This one, Arinze, please mute your, okay, thank you. So this one is time tested ancient, very reliable, always performing formula for building wealth. So what I have learned and what I tell clients, and particularly young people and business owners, when you want to build family wealth, don't make plans for 6 months. Don't make plans for 12 months. Don't make plans for even 2 years or 3 years. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. And so all the families you hear about today, Sam Walton of Walmart, all the families you hear about, the Disneys of this world, the Henry Fords, it took time. It took years. It took years. And most of the billionaires that we have in the world today that we hear about, whether you're talking about Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, or you're talking about the Microsoft founder, or you're talking about even someone like the Netflix founder or the Nike, when you look at them, it took them anywhere from 25 to 35 years to become what they are today. And Warren Buffett himself, it took him, like literally his whole lifetime. He's in his early 90s now, and he started in the 1950s investing. It took long. And then I've heard someone say that most of Warren Buffett's money came after he was 65 years. Something ridiculous, like 90-something% of his wealth he actually got it after he was 65. So there's something about patience and wealth. There's something about knowing how to let your money work for you long term. There is something about long-term thinking when it comes to building wealth, especially generational wealth. There's something about long-term planning and thinking and vision when it comes to running a business that will become a billion-dollar business. And I think that one reason that most people are poor in Africa is this short-term thinking. And then it doesn't help matters that many people are living on survival. And so people who are they wake up and then the only thing is, how do I eat today? How do we even survive? How do I feed my family? It can be very difficult in that kind of situation for the person to be thinking in the next 10 years. And in the course of my work, working with organizations, where one of the things I do for companies is to help them to create their mission statements. So that's what I did for Flutterwave, facilitating their mission statement. Many other companies that you can think about. Real Fruit, if you know Real Fruit, DO2, if you got that look in Victoria Island, and many companies like that. Now, and then part of that exercise, part of developing that thing is envisioning the future. And I find that for most Africans, we've not trained ourselves, and then the school system has not trained the typical African to be a long-term thinker. I remember a couple of years ago, I took a writing holiday. I wanted to write just a place I will escape and then be a stranger and write a book. So I went to London, and I stayed in a hotel in central London. And I'm not a television watcher, but I don't know if it happens if you're a writer here. So sometimes you're in the middle of writing, and then you just want to kind of distract your mind with something. So I turned the television on, and then it was the education secretary in the UK at that time who was making her presentation to the parliament. I'd never heard anything this brilliant. This woman was there, and they were, and then in her presentation, she was talking about how the state of mathematics, she was that detailed, and physics in the UK compared to Russia, compared to Japan, compared to other Asian countries, compared to North America. She had her data. And then she was saying things like, if we have to do this today, so that in the next 50 years, Britain will be here. And she was talking 50 years, 30 years, 50 years. And I was looking at this woman and said, this woman will not be here in 50 years' time. But she was already thinking, about, they were already planning for the next 50 years. But you find the typical African government can't even plan for 1 year and then hold it. And then by the time one government is coming, it's completely rubbishing what the other one had done. And there's no continuity, even after 4 years. So long-term thinking is a powerful thing. And I would like you to write it down, type it in the chat, write it down when it comes to building wealth, you have to think long-term. I have been a business coach. I've been teaching in LBS in all these different places. I can tell you this. This is not sort of thing, it's not obvious and you can't find it in books. But I'm telling you, there is a very strong connection between wealth and long-term thinking. You see, the pressure that you put on yourself because you have to achieve this particular revenue. And I'm not saying we should not motivate ourselves, as business owners, and I'm not saying we should not motivate ourselves and then set goals. But many of these things, we put ourselves under very undue pressure to try to do these things like overnight and just achieve this thing overnight. Money doesn't like it. Money likes to be left alone to work. That's a fundamental principle. Money likes to be left alone to work. Not you plant it and then you dig it out. Then plant it again, then dig it out, plant it and dig it out. So you can imagine Warren Buffett, if he had stopped or something doing what he was doing before he was 65, we wouldn't hear about him today. And then the guy says he's not smart, 90-something years, you're 91 years. And then you've had since 1950-something for literally the whole of it, because I think he started investing at 8. So you have 80 years doing that one thing. You don't need to be a genius. And he says it, there's nothing special. But the guy, time worked on his favor. And then investing and leaving it alone. He wasn't trading. So some of us here, we seem to have the trader mentality. But I was reading about some research work that's been done in recent times, about comparing the yield of people who do day trading, who trade in stocks or Forex versus people who invest and leave it for the long time. And then they found out over and over and over again that the long-term investors always outperform the day traders who will tell you, oh, today I made 50%, today whatever, by far, by margin. So write it down somewhere, because for me, it was so freeing when I started thinking in terms of 10 years, in terms of 10-year plans. So I'm raising a unicorn business. But if I want to do it under 1 year, my blood pressure will go up and I'm going to have issues. But if I give myself time and say, it's a 10-year plan, like I actually have a 10-year plan, then it doesn't put me under pressure for short-term pressure when things that I thought should happen this month haven't happened. Why? Because I'm playing the long-term game. So I can be patient, I can wait. And I also have the biographies and autobiographies of people who have done it. And I can tell that the people who had the long-term plan actually outperform and actually become wealthier. You have long-term plan, you have delayed gratification, and then you move little by little. And then one more story on that. Brian Tracy once told a story about meeting a Japanese businessman. And then the man told him that he had a 300-year business plan. So Tracy asked him, 300 years? You are not going to be here in 300 years. And the man said, that's why he has a plan. And so all of us should be able to do that. And then in the course of subsequent financial masterclasses, I will introduce you to the generational wealth building worksheet, that you can use to think about that for your family. So now the dream has, is an acronym, and the formula has basically 5 steps. Okay, if you want this, we can put it in the WhatsApp for you to download, later. But you also have access to this recording. So the first part of it is discipline spending. Okay, it's a verb. We're using it like a verb. So discipline spending, raise income, eradicate debt. So the first D stands for discipline spending. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we can cut down our expenses. So one assignment I want everyone to do here within this week, before I see you next Saturday. In fact, we are going to start with that. How you are able, because we would like to learn from each other, how you are able to cut down expenses. It's not cool to sound, you have to sound sophisticated and expensive, out there. So you really, even as things are right now, there are opportunities to cut down spending. It could be from the place you source your food. Okay, I know that in Lagos, I used to go directly to my 12. I used to go to K2 myself. And then sometimes food stuff that I will buy from around the estate for 1,000 naira. I get it in that place for 700, literally 700. It might be that if electricity permits in your part of town where you live, if electricity permits, you can actually buy in bulk. Because when you buy tomatoes, for instance, like we used to do, you buy tomatoes in a basket, you actually save a lot. And then you can blend it, and then you can puree it, and then put in the freezer and things like that. There are all kinds of ways you can cut down spending, even without cutting down your lifestyle. Okay, the R stands for raising income. So we will not exhaust that today, but say I'm a business school professor. There are only 2 ways that money is made, and we need to know those 2 ways. Every other thing is an offshoot of these 2 ways that money is made. So money is made either through labor or is made through finance. And that's why, and in fact, most money is made through finance than through labor. So for labor, you are basically trading your time and your skills and your energy for money. That's labor. But finance is where you have all these financial markets. That's where you talk about investments and things like that. That's where people let the money work for them. Instead of in labor, you are working for money. And you can never work for enough money. But when you now start letting money to work for you, and there are many different ways to do that. And then one quick way that comes to my mind is investing in the stock market. I've written a book because I found that so many people have no idea the opportunities for long-term wealth creation in the stock market. So many people have no idea because everybody's talking about MMM or MBA Forex, or they're talking about cryptocurrency. And then the old people who knew about stocks, they are still there. This is my 20th year in the stock market, quietly. And I've written a guide that literally, if you read it today, you can start investing in the stock market from your room, because the Nigerian Stock Exchange has advanced. Now we have direct market access. You can trade directly on the terminal. It didn't exist just a few years ago. And it's there are lots of opportunities there. So Williams, you can put the link to the book in the chat, and also in the WhatsApp group. Buy that book. It's very practical, and then start raising your income. So you can also do side hustles. You can also pursue more certification, something that makes you more valuable to the company that you work with, so that you can raise your income. It's the income is an important equation, part of the equation in creating wealth. The E stands for eradicate debt. There's this curious scripture that says that the wicked borrow and they do not return. I have had some serious debt issue, and I remember kneeling down and saying, God, I do not want to be classified as a wicked. So all my debt, all the money I owe to individuals and to institutions, I want to pay them off. And then when you pay off the debts when you don't pay off your debt, you're actually working from a negative, because debt puts you in prison. It's impossible to be financially free and to be in debt at the same time. Okay. I know that people talk about good debt and then bad debt, of course. So the good debt, if you're actually using debt to grow your business and it's working for you and you've done your math very well, that's good. I'm talking about this debt, like one of my debt was landlord to a place that we had lived, and then I couldn't pay that old guy. Because things were just not working out for us as a family at that time. And but as I was leaving, I told him, so I'm giving you my word, I'm not going to owe you a kobo. I'm going to pay it. It took me 7 years, but I paid that old man back. Today he's always on my status and looking at it. He didn't believe it, because it's 7 years after that, he did not believe that I could pay it back. But it's a good principle to owe no man anything but love. So work towards eliminating your debt. Debt is a problem, because even the psychological burden that debt has to. I remember before I paid that man, if I'm taking a walk in the estate and I see him somewhere, there's a way you feel. Debt robs you of confidence. So you need to eradicate debt. The A stands for accumulate savings. So you develop the habit of saving. The commonest complaints I get about saving in Nigeria is that people tell me everywhere I go, they say, oh, that my salary is too small, I can't even save. And I always say that it's not about the amount of money. It's about cultivating the habit. Once you start saving, if you are earning 40,000 naira, don't worry about 10,000. Don't even worry about saving 4,000 naira, which is 10%. You can start with just 1%, 400. Put it aside. What I've discovered with saving is that once, let me call it the spirit of saving, once it bites you, there's no going back. And it's such a very good spirit to bite you. Once you start, you just love saving. Because I told story one of the radio episodes about how I just felt like eating grilled fish. In the place I am, they have a place that they do grilled fish very well, and it starts from 7,000 naira. You can actually get it for as much as 10,000 or more. And I felt like just driving down there and getting the grilled fish, one day. But midway, I looked at 7,500 naira. Wait a minute, I mustn't even eat this fish. It's not that I'm malnourished. It's not even that I'm hungry. It's not even so because I have cultivated that spirit of saving, I'm able to put a check on myself to ask, do I really need this thing? And so I went a step further to say, okay, what is GT Bank doing at this time? And then at that time, I think GT Bank was like 17 naira or there, something like that. And then I said, should I go eat grilled fish? Which by the time I wake up in the morning, it goes out through the toilet and that's it. That's the end of it. Or should I put this money in GT Bank? And of course, I did put the money in GT Bank. And GT Bank has done well since that time. So well that I can actually take the initial investment and eat my grilled fish. and then the original investment is still there. That's why you want to save. It's not because of the money, it's not because of the amount, it's because of the habit. And yes, I'm aware that the currency keeps going down, keeps being devalued. So if you might say, if I save 400 naira today, after 6 months, that 400 naira, the value would be 200 naira. Yes, I understand that. But don't worry about that. Just get into the savings habit. Then the final one is emergency fund. This is so important because I think that 99.9% of us in Nigeria don't have emergency fund. We don't. And we see it everywhere, every time in the newspaper, on social media, on newspaper. A particular celebrity or somebody has a kidney problem or a health challenge. Before you know it, crowdfunding, people are sending SOS and things like that to different people. So we don't have emergency fund. And it's not just in Nigeria. Now it's so bad in America, so bad that the statistic now is that 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and that most Americans, about that same number, if not more, do not have 500 naira saved anywhere. Most Americans don't have $500, I beg your pardon, saved anywhere. So it's terrible. So to be a person of wealth or wealth consciousness or long-term wealth creating, it does not matter where you are today. It doesn't matter if you're yet looking for a job. Doesn't matter if you're a single mother. Doesn't matter if your business has just failed. Wherever each of us is at this time, we can start right from here. We can start from this. Start with disciplining your spending. Start thinking about brainstorming ways you can raise your income. Create a plan for dealing with your debt. I have a worksheet for this that I'm going to show you how to get the worksheet and then this very slide within the week. Okay. Get into the savings habit, create an emergency fund, which you can start building a little bit. And then what I do, the way I process my own kind of emergency fund is I put it in a liquid environment, like in the stock market, because putting money, that kind of money in the bank, and typically it's advised that you have at least 6 months worth of your living expenses. So if in your family, your monthly living expenses is 100,000 naira, it's advised that you have at least 6 months. That's in America. Here, I would actually say 1 year, so that you have 1.2 million naira saved somewhere. And then part of that is that if you lose your job, for instance, you won't lose your job today and then go into destitution like the next day. There's an emergency fund, to deal with that. Okay, so this is actually the final thought for today. And so we can take some time and then get some reactions. What did you find helpful? Was this really helpful, this conversation? Please type in the chat. Was this helpful? And then what questions do you have that we can deal with? Oh, I can see my daughter here. Jacqueline. Jacqueline is here. Hello, Jackie. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So please type in the chat, what one thing are you working out of here today? What one thing are you working out of this place today? What was your aha moment? What was your top insight that you are going to find a way to implement within the week? And then while we're at it, if you have a particular question that you would like me to address, you can also type it in the chat. But in the meantime, tell me in the chat, what you find most helpful, right? When you mention stocks. All right, excellent. Yeah, okay. Culture of savings. All right, keep it coming. What was your aha moment today? Mine was actually when Aunty Ngozi was sharing her story. I don't know if someone else felt that way. Yeah, and then she mentioned that, how the husband was quite humble and how he was able to take something that other people would consider like beneath him. And then within 10 months, he walked the family out of that situation. For me, that was an aha moment. Okay. To cultivate a habit of savings and emergency funds. Correct. Very true, Nina. That is a game changer for every family. And then we should start teaching our children as well to save money. Okay, Arinze said cut down expenditure, long-term investment. Okay, Simeon says, yes, Aunty Ngosi's reference to unity was inspiring. Very true. Okay, unity. And she did mention about my sweetheart, and everything she said about her was very true. I think I would have entered what the Americans called, okay, let me not use the word, it's a bad word. If I didn't have a wife like she is, I wouldn't be talking to us here. So there's nothing so powerful like, I used to travel a lot at some point, and but my wife made the house a place of peace, an atmosphere of peace, an atmosphere of growth. Because you see, men who go out and then come back and their house is on fire, it's like hellfire. You go out there, you finish fighting the war, you come back home, and then everything in the house is kind of kata kata. It's also a big problem. So yes, that was an aha moment. Unity in the family. Okay. Silas says, I didn't know investing in stock is now easy. Oh yeah, it is. So make sure you get the book, and it's going to show you how to open your account, how to start trading from your cell phone in the Nigerian stock market. Is that easy now? Okay, Moni says, question, would you discourage the use of loans to expand the business? No, I wouldn't. But what I usually tell my hundreds of clients, I say to them, the best time to take a loan from the bank is when you don't need it. The first time to go to talk to private equity firms is when you don't need it. If you borrow a loan, if you borrow money when you most need it, is like most likely to, I know what I'm saying is counterintuitive, but debt can be very, very good. Secondly, make sure you do your numbers very well, that your business model can actually pay back. All right. Make sure you do your numbers very, very well, because you're borrowing that loan, you're borrowing that money at 25-30%. And then inflation currently stands at about 22-23%. So you really want to make sure that your gross profit, except if you're running something like a retail business where your turnover is such that you can actually easily pay back without being burdened by that kind of interest. So I wouldn't say you shouldn't. I would just say use loan very wisely, and then make sure you need it before you take it. Okay, beautiful.
There's a question by Moshi.
Okay. Can you, I'm trying to look at the chat. What question is that? Can you read it out?
Do you recommend trading on Nigeria or investing long term like Warren Buffett, or a combination of these? Bills have to be paid always. Anyway, please advise.
Okay, I don't see that anyway, but okay, yeah. For me, it's no, none of that is wrong. But the first thing, just like that book actually encourages you, the very first thing is to define your investment goals. Don't start trading or going to the stock market without first of all defining your investment goal. So it's your investment goal that will determine whether you want to do trading or whether you want to do, buy good stocks and then hold them long term. So it's your objective that will determine whether you want to do dividends or you want to do capital appreciation. Yeah, so none of those things is wrong. It just depends on what your investment objectives, what you're trying to achieve. Okay, Mosh, your hand is up, and then Ngozi.
Yes.
Okay, let's go with Mosh first, and then Ngozi before we round up.
Yes, Mr. Agu, thank you so much. I really appreciate all you've been doing. I mean, I've listened to your answer to my earlier question as to whether it's investing through trading or long-term investment, and you watch your funds grow over time. But my question to you is that, do you really believe, and I know this is not perhaps not a question for you, do you really believe in the Nigerian Stock Exchange? There are so many things that are happening. And I mean, like I said earlier, I lost a lot of money in the bubble of 2008, 2007, 2008. And there are a lot of companies that I invested my hard-earned small salary at the time that are no longer on the stock exchange. Nobody communicated us as shareholders. Those companies, a lot of them, PHB and all, they are dead and buried. Now, we have a lot of firms on the stock exchange now. And I mean, up until last year, I used to work. Okay. And I know for a fact that there are so many of these companies that should be doing better than what they present, the results they present, because there's no corporate governance at all. You have retail investors that come, they are minority shareholders, they come put their money in. And you have the fat cats cutting away CEOs, executive directors, and all that, cutting away huge sums of money that are supposed to be distributable profits. Now, there is no system that holds them accountable, right? And this is the same market that we want to come and, invest. How do we balance this?
Okay, it's a good
criminal question. Activities being performed there.
All right, so it's a very
Thank you.
It's a very good question, Mosh. And sadly, it's not just the Nigerian stock market, even the New York Stock Exchange or the London. In fact,
no, sir. Sorry to cut you short here. I'm so sorry. I must apologize. In those jurisdictions, if you are caught doing any of these things, a semblance of any of this, you'll be held to account and you'll go to prison. And there are a lot of examples of this.
Yes, but
not London, not US.
Yes, but
I'm talking of Nigeria now.
I can assure you,
you get away with crime.
Oh yeah. I can assure you, even in the so-called US you're talking about, people are getting away with more crime than you hear in the papers, because the system is the same. The system of the world and everything that you're doing in the stock exchanges in the world, they are all coming from the same place. They do exactly the same thing. It's just when you don't play the inner game. I mean, for instance, your Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and all those people are doing insider trading. Have you sent Nancy Pelosi to jail? Most of those senators are doing insider trading. So they know when something is coming down, and then they offload their shares. And then the Americans, they talk about it, they point that Nancy Pelosi or whatever they call her, does that. All these other people do it. Then when they set up the COVID pandemic, did you know how much they all made? Did you know that this whole COVID thing was...
Sorry,
hold on, Mosh. Let me finish so I can finish my thoughts. So I'm just saying that These things are not perfect anyway. It's human beings that put up these things. And it's generally the Babylonian system. So it's not that it is better in America than it is in Nigeria. The summary is, yes, these things happen. And this is why it places the responsibility on you, not on the market. It places the responsibility on you to know what you're doing. You are the one that will do your due diligence. You are the one that will decide. I mean, like in those days, people will see Onwaka Tech and all some of these other companies that have disappeared. There were even companies in the Nigerian stock market that were not even existing a couple of years ago, so that the exchange should have delisted. They were not even existing. They had failed, but they were still being traded in the Nigerian stock market. So things happen. So, but rather than blame the system, whether it is New York Stock Exchange or London or Nigeria or something, you take the responsibility for your own investing. You are the one that will take the responsibility. Do you even want to play or not? Because it's not a must that people will play. Do you want to play there or not? It's all based on your own objectives. And not everybody will play in the stock market because it might not fit your personality. It might not fit your beliefs. It might not fit your experience. And it's okay. There are many other vehicles that you can do that. But then if you must come into the market, you must take responsibility for your investment, what you're investing in, and you must monitor the companies. So the few companies that I invested in, I look at, and this is my 20th year. So people have different kinds of experiences with the stock market. Some good, some bad, but it's not the stock market itself, because every system, which is basically what I was mentioning, London or America, every system is flawed. It's worse, I'm telling you, in those places. When you actually look at the money masters and what they do, and then all the complications of Wall Street and then Federal Reserve Bank and then the political system, it is horrible. That is even horrible. And people are losing money every day in the in American stock market and things like that. So I'm bringing it back to you, squarely on your shoulder, that you are the one to take responsibility on what you want to invest. If you choose to go into real estate, you must study real estate. If you choose to go into stock market, you must study it. So you're not going to wait for the exchange or wait for the government or wait for people to do that for you. So if I choose to invest in the stock market, I must know what I'm doing. I have to do my due diligence. Like you talked about corporate governance and things like that. I have to do my due diligence. I have to understand what is going on. There's a company right now that is about to face a very huge risk. I mean, if they are sanctioned, they are in court right now. Is a company in the stock market, Nigerian stock market. If they are sanctioned, that company it will take them a long time to survive. Now, I didn't do my due diligence before buying so much of that, whatever. Now, before I found the news, and then it's trading at a huge loss right now. Is it the problem of the stock exchange or my problem? I didn't do my due diligence. So I have to find out. There are some others I'm following. I'm following the news of the ones that I'm not investing in so many things, but the ones I'm investing, I'm following their news. One of them got a contract or something recently to do the Enugu Onisha road for 700 billion naira. Do you know? So these are the kind of information I find out. And then I invest based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. So you can't just buy something and then throw it, just leave it there, and then expect that all of a sudden. So every investment, everywhere you go, it has its own risks. The stock market has risks. It's not risk-free. Real estate is not risk-free. Cryptocurrency or whatever is not risk-free. But you must understand yourself, what you want to do, and then give the time to understanding it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your money. So the problem is not stock market. The problem is we. What do we want? How do we do our due diligence? I hope that helps because we're running out of time. Because you see a very quick comment. Your hand is still up.
Yes, it's something you wrote. I agree with you with what you just said, but it's something you wrote on LinkedIn, where you were referring that Steve Jobs or somebody said all the money you may make in years depends on your thinking. You can also make them in less than 1 year. It was an article of yours. So how does this now?
Did we lose you? Did we lose you?
No, I don't know. Did anybody hear me?
No, you were asking something. You said, how does this? And then
Heard you.
Yes, we
It's
have
an
you,
article. You wrote an article.
yes.
Mr. Wo, you wrote an article in LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I read it, where it's saying that our thinking limits us, that some of the wealth we can make in less than a year, that we by our thinking spread it to years. And you said it was somebody like Steve Jobs or somebody had said that. So I'm trying to see how this marries with this slow growth now. Yes.
Yeah. Now that principle is also illustrated in something I posted recently. Because mindset is everything, but I think Usain Bolt said it best. He said that he trained 4 years to run for 9 seconds. So there is actually overnight success, but like a lot of people who have been in the field and the practice of entrepreneurship have said, the overnight success many times takes years, and then it happens overnight. Because when people are grinding behind the scenes, you don't see it. Like, we never saw Usain Bolt practice. We never saw the whatever, but everybody saw the 9 seconds he ran and did that. So whatever it takes to get to that mindset, all right, because we can literally make whatever money we need to make, but we have to become, as it were, become have the consciousness that we are become the kind of people who can make that kind of money. So Warren Buffett is able to make within a minute the money that some of us don't make in 20 years, because he has become the kind of person. He's built in the competencies, the mindset to be able, the mechanics to be able to do that. So it's not quite contradictory. It's like two sides of one coin. It can happen overnight, but then at the other side of the coin is setting it up, the exercising, the training that you do for 4 years to make it happen overnight. So I don't know whether that helps, but it sounds like a contradiction, but that is really two sides of one coin. Until we develop that mindset of a millionaire, we will never make millions. That was why when I was working with Shell, I was earning all that money, but I was getting broke every month. Because you can't solve money, just throwing cash into a mindset problem does not dissolve it. It takes time to learn, to accumulate, to develop that mindset. And so once I develop it, what would have taken me 10 years to do, I can do it in 1 day. I don't know whether that helps.
Well, so what I hear, what I hear is that though it might appear as if it happened immediately, it took time and a mindset. So that mindset, isn't that why the Ponzi schemes are running? Because it's also
it's also why
it's also why people press calculator and see what they're going to get and jump into it. That's actually so. Well, having said that, I want to say Well, thank you for all the people who have shared. And then to also say that, it's a continuous learning experience. The stock market, the stock market, honestly, somebody told me, just said to me, I don't deal with it. It's a scam. Because you'll be looking at your money today, it goes down. Those companies you're mentioning, Omoka Tech, I have one that Allstate set up. And like true, you don't know when whether they delist themselves, we don't even know. But there are so many of them, the upstarts that we are told to, that's a better place to buy and all that. I hope now that MTN has been raining, that they're not going down, because that one blood will flow, because it's the kind of publicity that was given to those shares.
Okay,
all right, thank you, Mr. Obu.
Yeah, thanks. So basically, just like somebody captured, Olani captured in the chat, everything in this world's financial system, ladies and gentlemen, every single thing in this system is a scam. Yeah, the stock market is a scam. It wasn't set up by God. Your educational system is a scam. Your medical system is a scam. Your employment is a scam. All of them. Therefore, if you do not take charge of yourself, of your learning, of your purpose while you are here, then you are going to be swept up by everything. As long as it's connected to this world's financial system, is a scam. The naira you're holding in your hand, or the dollar, is a scam. The dollars you're holding is a scam. It doesn't exist. It's ordinary paper. There's nothing backing it. So it's a scam. So that's why you have to take responsibility. If you are going to create wealth and to break free from the system, which is really the path I'm on, how can I break free from this world's monetary system, even though I'm in it? Because you can't escape it. Even if you don't invest in the stock market, you are part of that financial system. So see what I've done myself, because the stock market basically is the Nigerian economy. That's really like the kitchen of the Nigerian economy. All your banks, all your tech, all your whatever, they're all in the stock market. And so if you are not playing there, you are not playing in the economy. And then remember, I told you there are only two ways to make money, either through labor or through finance. And then if you're talking about the finance, you're talking about the different financial markets that exist. So you need to escaping this monetary system is not something you do casually. It's not something you do casually. You've got to really know what is going on. If you do not know and even understand what money is, you find yourself. That's why people finish work. They work for 40 years, 50 years. It's happening to many people in Nigeria. They retire at 65, 70. They've worked for 50 years of their lives, 40, 50 years, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing to show for it, because the financial system has happened to you. Insurance, all of that everything is a scam. But you've got to understand what is going on so that you know how you can free yourself, from it. And that's part of why we're having this masterclass. And I think I like that you mentioned that it's a learning process. It's not something that we're going to get in one evening. So Yemi, your hand is up. Maybe we'll take that one. We take yours, and then Yemi can unmute and speak.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think you've said the right word, that everything is almost like a scam. And I think the problem is that we've moved away from creating value and solving problem to chasing money. I think true wealth will always be built on value creation and long-term thinking. We all left agriculture. I think I was speaking with someone one time like that. I said, my grandfather was a successful cocoa farmer. If he was smart, he would have trained all his children, in terms of agriculture, in terms of asking himself, how can I make this cocoa farm a conglomerate? Okay, maybe one son might go into processing, another might go into trading. And that's how you set industries, and you start building derivatives that the family will not have to look for paid employment. And instead, what we'll start doing is we start employing people. And that's how the country becomes financially free. And that's in every sector. If you look at every sector of the economy, it's not fully developed. Even banking, we still have problems. There are still opportunities in banking. So I think when we as a people also start looking at, okay, what problem can I really solve? I think it's quite interesting how you mentioned about the shower stop. Like in terms of, you planting that and making money from that. There is money to be made everywhere around us in Nigeria. It's just that, we're not seeing the value in those things and then planning long term around them.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Great comment. So, and you've hinted on how to break free from the system. It's something that we are going to progressively talk about, but everybody needs to wake up. This whole thing is a scam, but the key to breaking out of it is that value. Because all this paper money that we are using all over the place, there's they are just paper money. There's no value backing them, and then people focus so much on that paper money and they're not looking at it. For me, why I have played in the stock market for long is that my reasoning behind it was whatever I use daily. Okay, let me put it this way. The reason I'm in the stock market and the reason I've started playing in the agro sector too is that I want to develop, and then this is the closing remark, and I would like you to write this thing down in your journal that I'm about to say. The key to breaking free from this world's economic system is the ownership mentality, not a renter. If you are a renter on this planet, you are going to suffer. And it's not only that you're going to suffer, you're going to leave nothing behind for the next generation. The key is to think, behave, and act with the ownership mentality, not a renting mentality. So you own your own house, you own your whatever, you own. So that ownership mentality led me to my strategy in the stock market. So if I'm using anything, I want to be an owner of that thing, not a renter. So I'm not investing in too many things in the stock market, but all the things I use the banks, and the banks, they charge me all these things every month. Very annoying charges. I don't even understand what they are. 50 naira today, 300 naira, 1,000 something, just keep charging within the week. So instead of fighting it, because I don't have the time to go and start fighting Access Bank, they just charge anyhow or fight all these banks. What do? I decide, okay, I'm going to own the bank so that whatever they are charging me and charging other people, at the end of the year, I get it back through dividends. I've just given you a secret. I get it back. So I'm no longer offended when the bank keeps on charging me all those illegal, I believe they're illegal. They just charge. And then they know it's 50 naira. Nobody, by the time they charge everybody in the bank, 50 naira, and then they have 5 million accounts. That's a lot of money. And they do it every. So I didn't have time to go and start, fighting for a refund of 50 naira. So what did I do? I said, okay, I'm going to own this bank. I'm going to own a slice of this bank. How can I own a slice of this bank? It's in the stock market. It's in the stock market. So I buy a slice of the bank. And then they pay the dividends. I just got some dividends a couple of days ago, and then 2 weeks ago, got another one, from MTN. Now, why MTN or telecoms? Because I buy this recharge card every time. I buy data. I use them. No, so now I don't want to use them and just be a user, a renter. I want to be the owner of the telecommunication company. That's the way I invest. And then I use soap, washing, detergents, and things like that. And I said, okay, I don't just want to be a renter. I want to own the company that makes those things. So anytime I go out there and I'm buying this soap and I'm buying this washing agent, I'm buying this kitchen, whatever, I am buying from my own company. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm going, because I like you to go and sleep over this. It's not about the stock market. But if you want to break free, if you want to break, and this is something you don't hear everywhere, but the secret, and the rich people know it, is to be an owner, not a renter. Not a renter. Don't be a user, a consumer. Be a creator, be a producer. And then for all the people producing all these in the economy, own a piece of it. So that when you are buying anything, you are buying from your own company. And how can you own this company? You can't start another MTN now. You can't start another GT Bank or something. But you can go in there, buy a piece of it. And of course, as you buy it, you're also monitoring the news, like somebody says, so that you know when to opt out. These things are not very complicated unless you want to make it complicated. So wealth is a mindset game. It's not all this hustling and running. It is a mindset game, sitting down and thinking and pursuing it. And so for me, I've been building it quietly. I don't talk about it publicly, except like when you come into my space like this. And then I can share that with you because I believe it can help you. So let it be something that you're taking out of this place. Be an owner. Always think as an owner. Now you might be in a rented house, like in this place I am, but you have to have a plan to own your own house. Many of you who own houses here, you know that it feels different. It feels there's something taken off you. Does anybody own a house here? Own your own house? Just type it in the chat. Confirm what I'm telling you. There's a massive weight taking over your shoulders. So if you've actually taken care of rent and you own your house, wherever you're living, it's like you've solved like 70% of all your financial troubles. So always think as an owner, not just as a renter. All right, this is where we're going to round it off today. It's been a wonderful evening chatting and engaging with you. And I hope that you have found lots of insight and things that you can go out within
but before you go, please, but before you go, we were not talking about stock exchange, but Moshi made a point, which still remains a point. They are not distributing what that can be distributed. Even when you say you feel that you are an owner. I worked in a bank, and on the AGMs, the certain parts of the shareholders who had large equity would fill up the place, do some wicked things so that the other people will not come for the AGM. So that in the end, I saw it, there was no transparency. You see this scam we're talking about. So there is that burden of the people, no matter how you say, because I know who we are in these banks, no matter what is said about being an owner, that is in the peace of mind to buy, to go and buy those items. But in real sense, if your own chunk of what you own there is a small slice, there's not much. After all, I'm seeing the dividends I've seen the profits of the bank, and I'm seeing the dividends they are sharing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you, but I'm making this point that it's a choice. Investing, just like saving with this inflation that's going on, it's still is a choice. But one thing that I take away this night is like, don't look at what it appears like. Do what you need to do. Get into the habit, continue with the habit, and then do delayed gratification. Well, but my people will say the one where you chop, now you carry for body. So,
yeah. Okay. So good point. Yeah. So very, very good point. But let me just say to Mosh and to all of us, it will never be equitably distributed. Never. It does not happen anywhere. It will not happen here. In fact, that's the problem. And you know, when they talked about the 1% and then the 99%, this class thing has always been there all of this time. So don't worry about the big slices that all these other people, Mr. Ovia made 15 billion, this dividend you're talking about, that people, you get your dividend, 2,000 naira something, 11,000 naira something. Ovia made 15 billion in Zenith Bank alone. So why would he made 15 billion. Tony Elumelu made 3-point-something billion from one company, dividend. So that would happen, but it does not bother me. Mine is my question, and that's what I've been actually encouraging everyone to frame. Knowing what you know, how do you break out of a system? Because it's no use just because what can you do about it? If you can't do anything about it, then it's no use, crying, about it. So the question should always be, what can I do about it? And then how can I set up my affairs and then set up my family to break free from this same thing you're talking about? Because it will always be there, because until Christ returns and his government is set up here, this is a fallen world that we live in. It cannot be perfect. And then if you're waiting for it to be perfect before you do what you need to do, I am telling you, people will die complaining. It's not a perfect world. This is a fallen world. And the financial system, like I said, is not even it's not even God that is controlling the financial system. Because if it was God controlling they call Satan the God of this world. So you've got to know who you're dealing with. And so these things are true because it's a fallen world. But you can't say, okay, fold your hands, because they never share. When did you expect them to start sharing it equitably? Are they ministers of the gospel or something? When will Tony Elumelu come and share his 3-point-something billion with you? He will take it and then, be showing us photos of him in a private jet and then meeting with Bill Clinton and all these other people. It can't be there. But so forget these people. Focus on yourself. Ask yourself this question as a family, because I actually believe it's best that we start building wealth as families. How do we break out of this system? It's a fallen world. The system is falling. Everything you are saying is correct. But then what do? Do you just forget and not do anything about it? So that's my point. All right.
Just quick point. I wanted to mention something. I think sometimes we are not being realistic with ourselves. We are all greedy. And I think most times we don't accept that we are greedy. If you start your own bank today, would you want to give someone else, would you want to share it equity? Give people the profit? It's hard work for you to build businesses. So I think the thing is, you don't expect that someone that has done the hard work and everything, and he would then just say, okay, he's just altruistic, and then he's going to give you the right value. I think that the reality is that, we ourselves need to also take ownership. I think where we are expecting systems, there's no system anywhere. Human beings run systems.
Right.
So it's us taking ownership. And I think, and seeing how can I maximize my own benefit. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks for that. So this is really wonderful. So, like I said, it's such a wonderful time that we've spent today talking about these things. And we need to talk about them, because mine is, how do we break out of this system? And so first of all, take ownership. Then secondly, start building your own system. So first of all, I want a slice of the GT Bank. And then I grow until I also develop my own GT Bank and then my own system, and then break out of it. And it's doable. Let's give ourselves time. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all. And so whatever happens, keep showing up because you never know. You just never know what's coming your way next. And then I'll see you exactly same time on Saturday evening. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Bo.
Thank you so